The warning lights flashed red across the bridge of the Harmony's edge. Captain Velthar's 4 eyes darted between the control panels as sparks flew from damaged systems. His blue skin had turned pale with fear. "Engine failure confirmed," shouted Engineer Korvac from his station. The small, furry alien's claws clicked rapidly on his keyboard. "We're losing power fast," Science Officer Nixara, her tentacles wrapped around her chair, checked her scanner. "Captain, there's a planet nearby. It's marked as Terra in our database." Captain Velthar felt his stomach drop. "What's the danger class?" "Class 12. Deathworld, sir." The bridge went silent. Every alien on the ship knew what that meant. Class 12 worlds were the most dangerous places in the galaxy. Nothing could live there. The environment would kill them in minutes. "Sir, we have no choice," Korvac said quietly. "If we don't land now, we'll die in space." Velthar closed his eyes. Death in space or death on a death world. Some choice. "All. Crew, prepare for emergency landing. This is not a drill." The ship shook as it entered Terra's atmosphere. The hull grew hot from the dangerous gases outside. Through the view screen, Velthar could see the deadly surface getting closer. There were large bodies of what looked like liquid, probably acid, and green areas that must be poisonous plants. "Brace for impact," he yelled. The Harmony's edge crashed into a forest with a loud boom. Trees, actual living plants somehow surviving on this nightmare world, broke and fell around them. The ship slid across the ground before finally stopping. Velthar slowly opened his eyes. He was alive. For now. "Damage report," he said weakly. "Hull. Breach in sections 4 and 7, Korvac reported. Life support is failing. Emergency power only." "How long do we have?" "Maybe 6 hours before the toxic atmosphere gets inside." Velthar activated the ship's emergency beacon. "All crew to emergency positions, deploy survival shelters. We make our last stand here." 12 aliens quickly set up their emergency shelters inside the ship. The shelters were small but had their own air supply and protection from the deadly environment outside. Each alien recorded final messages for their families, knowing they would probably die on this terrible world. 2 kilometers away, Jiho was checking the forest trails when he saw something bright flash across the sky. He was a park ranger, so he knew the area well. That looked like a meteor, but meteors didn't usually make such long trails. Then he heard the crash. Jiho grabbed his radio. "Mina, did you see that? The bright thing in the sky?" "Yeah, I saw it," came the reply. Mina was a geology student doing research in the area. "That wasn't a meteor, it moved too slow. I'm going to check it out. Wait for me. I'm coming with you." They met at Jiho's ranger station. Mina had her geology equipment with her, tools for studying rocks and soil. They drove toward the crash site in Jiho's truck. "Could be a plane," Jiho said as they bounced along the forest road. "No engine sounds," Mina replied. "And did you see how it glowed? That was weird." They reached the crash site and stopped. Both humans stared in amazement. "That's not from around here," Mina whispered. The crashed object was clearly a spacecraft. It was about 30 meters long and made of some kind of metal they had never seen. Strange symbols were written on the side. Parts of it still glowed with soft light. "We need to call this in," Jiho said, reaching for his radio. "Wait," Mina said, pointing. "Look at those lights inside. I think there might be survivors." Through small windows in the ship, they could see moving lights and shadows. Something was alive in there. Jiho called the emergency services. "This is Park Ranger Jiho. We have a situation. Some kind of aircraft crashed in Sector 7. We need medical help and probably the military." "What kind of aircraft?" came the reply. Jiho looked at the strange ship again. I'm not sure. Just send help. Send everyone." Soon more people arrived. Dr. Do-hyun came in the first ambulance, ready to help any survivors. So-young arrived to coordinate the rescue effort. She was good at organizing people during emergencies. "So, what are we dealing with?" Do-hyun asked, putting on his medical gloves. "We think there are survivors inside," Mina explained, "but we can't figure out how to get in." The ship had no obvious doors. The humans walked around it, looking for a way inside. Then So-young noticed something. "These symbols are glowing brighter," she said, pointing to some marks near what might be an entrance. As if responding to her voice, part of the ship's wall suddenly became transparent. The humans could now see inside. What they saw made them all step back in surprise. Strange creatures moved around inside the ship. They looked nothing like humans. Some had blue skin and 4 eyes. Others were covered in fur. One looked like it was made of tentacles. "Are those?" Do-hyun started to ask. "Aliens," Jiho finished. "Real aliens." Inside the ship, the aliens had noticed the humans too. They were just as shocked. "Captain," Nixara screamed. "There are creatures outside. They're not wearing any protection." Velthar looked through the transparent wall. Strange 2-legged beings stood outside in the open air. They had pale skin and weird fur only on their heads. Most shocking of all, they were breathing the deadly atmosphere without any protective gear. "That's impossible," he whispered. "Nothing can survive outside on a Class 12 world." "Maybe they're already dead," suggested Korvac. "Maybe we're seeing ghosts?" But the creatures were clearly alive. They were moving and pointing at the ship. One of them, the one with longer head fur, was speaking into some kind of communication device. "Sir," Nixara said, checking her instruments, "my scanners show they're alive. They have heartbeats, brain activity, everything. But they can't be alive. The radiation alone should have killed them." More creatures arrived in wheeled vehicles. They gathered around the ship and seemed to be discussing something. None of them wore any protection from the toxic environment. "Maybe they evolved here," Korvac suggested. "Maybe they're native to this Deathworld?" The idea was terrifying. What kind of creatures could evolve on a Class 12 world? They would have to be incredibly dangerous. But these beings didn't look dangerous. They looked concerned, like they wanted to help. One of the creatures, a male with short dark hair, stepped closer to the ship. He raised his hands in what might be a peaceful gesture. Jiho looked at the transparent wall of the ship. He could see the alien creatures inside. They looked scared and hurt. Some were clearly injured from the crash. "I think they need help," he said to the others. "But how do we communicate?" So-young asked. Mina had been studying the ship's design. "Look at those symbols. They're not random. This is technology, which means these beings are intelligent." "Intelligent aliens," Do-hyun said, shaking his head in amazement. "This changes everything." Inside the ship, Velthar made a difficult decision. His crew was hurt, and their life support was failing. These strange creatures might be dangerous, but they were his only hope. "Open communications," he ordered. "Try to contact them." The ship's computer activated its universal translator and sent a basic greeting in multiple mathematical languages. Outside, the humans heard strange sounds coming from the ship. "It's trying to talk to us," Mina said excitedly. Slowly, carefully, first contact between humans and aliens began. Neither side knew that this moment would change both their civilizations forever. The aliens thought they had crashed on a death world and met impossible creatures who could survive in hell itself. The humans thought they had just met visitors from the stars. Both were right, in their own way. The ship's computer finally connected with the humans' communication devices. Strange words filled the air as the universal translator worked to understand this new language. "Hello," came a voice from outside. "We want to help you." Inside the ship, Captain Velthar stared at his crew. The impossible creatures outside were speaking, and they wanted to help. "This could be a trap," whispered Korvac. "Maybe they eat other intelligent beings." But Velthar looked at his injured crew. 3 aliens were badly hurt from the crash. Their life support would fail soon. They had no choice. We accept your help," he said into the communication system. Outside, Jiho smiled. "They said yes. Let's figure out how to get them out of there." The ship's entrance opened with a soft hiss. Immediately, the aliens inside began to panic. Deadly atmosphere rushed into their ship. They grabbed emergency breathing masks and huddled together, but the humans walked right up to the entrance, breathing normally. Don't come closer, Nixara screamed through her mask. The air is poison, you'll die. Do-hyun stopped at the entrance. He could see the aliens were terrified and wearing breathing equipment. The air is fine, he said gently. Look, I'm breathing it right now. To prove his point, Do-hyun took several deep breaths. The aliens watched in horror as this creature inhaled what should be deadly gas. Impossible, Velthar whispered. The atmospheric readings showed toxic levels of oxygen and nitrogen. Maybe our instruments are broken, suggested Korvac hopefully. Do-hyun slowly entered the ship, moving carefully so he wouldn't scare the aliens. He could see several were injured. As a doctor, his first concern was helping them. I'm a healer, he said, hoping the translator would make that clear. Please let me help your wounded. The aliens were confused. This creature was not only surviving in a toxic atmosphere, but it wanted to help them. On their worlds, strangers usually ran away from danger, not toward it. Velthar made another hard choice. Let him help, he told his crew. Do-hyun examined the injured aliens. Their bodies were very different from humans, but injuries were injuries. He cleaned wounds and bandaged cuts while the aliens watched in amazement. Your healing knowledge is impressive, Nixara said. What technology do you use? Do-hyun held up his simple medical kit. Just basic supplies, bandages, antiseptic, pain medicine. The aliens scanned his equipment. According to their readings, these were primitive tools, but they worked perfectly. Outside, more humans had arrived. So-young was organizing a rescue operation. She had called for heavy equipment to help move the ship if needed. We should move them to a safer place, she told Jiho. This ship might be unstable. Inside the ship, the aliens heard this through the translator. Move us where? Velthar asked nervously. To our community center, So-young replied. It's warm and safe there. The aliens looked at each other in fear. These creatures wanted to take them to some kind of structure. On a Deathworld, any building would need massive protection systems. What if it was a trap? But their ship was damaged and losing power. They had to trust these strange beings. Slowly, carefully, the humans helped the aliens out of their ship. The aliens kept their breathing masks on and stayed close together. Every step on the deadly ground could be their last. Jiho led them to several vehicles. These will take us to safety, he said. The aliens stared at the wheeled machines. They looked so simple compared to space vehicles, but somehow they moved across this dangerous terrain easily. The ride to the community center was terrifying for the aliens. Through the windows they could see the Deathworld around them. Tall plants grew everywhere. Liquid water flowed in streams. The sky was blue with white formations floating in it. How is any of this possible? Korvac whispered to his captain. Water can't be liquid at these temperatures. Plants can't grow in this radiation. Maybe this isn't a normal Class 12 world, Velthar replied. Maybe our database was wrong. They arrived at a large building made of simple materials. The aliens were shocked. Where were the protective barriers? Where were the radiation shields? Welcome to our community center, So-young said proudly. We use it for meetings and emergencies. The aliens were led inside. The building had big windows that let in light from outside. There were no airlocks or decontamination chambers. The aliens huddled together, sure they were walking into a death trap. But nothing happened. The building was just comfortable. Mina brought them food and water. You must be hungry after your crash, she said kindly. The aliens scanned the food with their instruments. The readings made them panic. This substance is full of bacteria, Nixara exclaimed. It will kill us. Bacteria? Mina looked confused. You mean like germs? This food is perfectly safe. To prove it, she ate some of the food herself. The aliens watched in horror as she consumed what their scanners said was poison. Maybe their stomachs are different, Korvac suggested. Maybe they can process toxins, but it got worse. More humans arrived and they all ate the same dangerous food. They drank the liquid that scanned as contaminated. They breathed the poisonous air and touched surfaces covered in deadly microorganisms, and they were all perfectly healthy. I don't understand, Velthar said to Do-hyun. How do you survive here? This world should be impossible to live on. Do-hyun looked confused. Survive? This is our home. We've always lived here. But the radiation levels, the toxic atmosphere, the bacterial contamination. What radiation? Jiho asked, joining the conversation. What toxins? The air is clean today, much better than in the city. The aliens realized something incredible. These beings didn't just survive on a death world. They didn't even know it was dangerous. Then the real shock came. Dark clouds began to form outside. The sky grew darker. The aliens' instruments detected massive electrical activity building in the atmosphere. Oh no, So-young said, looking outside. Looks like rain. Rain? Velthar asked. Water falling from the sky, Mina explained. It's perfectly normal. Normal? The aliens watched in terror as electricity began to flash across the sky. Thunder shook the building. Then liquid began falling from above in massive quantities. This was clearly some kind of natural disaster. The aliens prepared for evacuation orders and emergency procedures. Instead, some humans went outside. I love the smell of rain, one human said, standing in the falling liquid. Good for the plants, said another. The aliens could not believe what they were seeing. These creatures were playing in what looked like an atmospheric catastrophe. Children, young versions of the humans, were running around and laughing as electrical discharges lit up the sky above them. This is just weather, Jiho explained to the terrified aliens. It happens all the time. All the time? Korvac squeaked. Sure, though So-young is right. We might get some interesting storms when monsoon season starts. Monsoon season? Velthar asked weakly. Oh yes, So-young said cheerfully. Much bigger storms than this. Sometimes the rain lasts for weeks. The aliens stared at each other. These humans talked about atmospheric disasters like they were discussing the weather, because to them, it was just weather. Captain Velthar began to understand something terrible and wonderful. His crew hadn't crashed on a normal death world. They had crashed on a planet where the local wildlife had evolved to think that death world conditions were normal, everyday life. And the scariest part? The humans seemed to genuinely want to help them. What kind of beings were so dangerous that they considered a Class 12 death world to be home, but so kind that they would rescue complete strangers? Velthar watched a human child run through the deadly rain laughing with joy, and realized he was about to learn the answer to that question. The next morning brought even more humans to meet the aliens. Word had spread through the town that visitors from space had arrived. Instead of fear or panic, the humans showed curiosity and kindness. Kyung-soo arrived early with his toolbox. He was an engineer who worked on complex machines. I heard your ship needs repairs, he said to Captain Velthar. Mind if I take a look? Velthar was nervous. Their ship contained advanced technology that these primitive beings couldn't possibly understand. But they needed help. Please be careful, he said. The technology is very complex. Kyung-soo examined the damaged ship with interest. He ran his hands over the hull and looked at the broken parts. This is beautiful work, he said. What kind of metal is this? It's trilithium composite, Engineer Korvac explained. The strongest material in our galaxy, very rare and difficult to work with. Kyung-soo nodded. Looks similar to some titanium alloys we use. I think I can fix this with steel reinforcement and ceramic patches. The aliens stared at him. Steel and ceramics were super advanced materials in their civilization. Only the most expensive ships use them. This human talked about them like they were common building supplies. You have steel? Korvac asked in amazement. Of course. There's a hardware store in town. We can get everything we need. While Kyung-soo worked on the ship, more humans arrived. Yoonji brought a group of young humans she called students. The children wanted to meet aliens from space, she explained. Is that okay? Before the aliens could answer, small humans surrounded them. These juvenile creatures looked at the aliens with bright, curious eyes. "Are you really from another planet?" asked one small human. "Do you have families like us?" asked another. The aliens were confused. On their worlds, adults protected children from anything dangerous. But these human adults let their young ones approach creatures from a death world. Then the aliens noticed something terrifying. The human children played outside without any protection. They ran around in the deadly atmosphere, laughing and shouting. Some of them even practiced fighting moves they called taekwondo. "Should they be doing that?" Nixara asked nervously, watching the children kick and punch the air. "It's good exercise," Yunji replied. "Keeps them healthy and strong." Healthy and strong? The aliens watched as these small humans performed combat moves that would seriously injure most galactic species, and the adults encouraged it. Tai Hyun arrived, next with bags of food from his farm. He was an older human with sun-darkened skin and strong hands. "Thought you might like to try some local food," he said kindly. He showed them vegetables and fruits grown in the local soil. The alien scanners went crazy. These plants had absorbed minerals from the ground that registered as toxic waste. "The soil here is very rich," Taehyun explained proudly. "We get good crops even when the weather is difficult." "Difficult weather?" Velthar asked. "Oh, you know, sometimes it doesn't rain for months. Sometimes we get too much rain and everything floods. Last year we had a typhoon that knocked down half the trees in the forest." The aliens looked at each other in horror. This human was describing natural disasters that would destroy cities on their worlds, and he called it difficult weather. "How do you survive such catastrophes?" Korvac asked. Taehyun looked puzzled. "Survive? We just adapt, build stronger houses, plant different crops, help each other when times are hard. That's life. That's life." The aliens were beginning to understand that humans had a very different idea of what normal life meant. Then Nari arrived with more food. She had prepared what she called traditional Korean dinner for their guests. The smell hit the aliens first. Their breathing equipment filtered most of it, but what got through made their eyes water. "What is that substance?" Nixara asked, pointing to a red paste on the food. "Gochugaru," Nari said happily. "Korean chili pepper. Gives the food a nice kick." She served them kimchi, which their scanners identified as fermented organic matter with active bacterial cultures. She offered them soup with mushrooms that registered as fungal organisms with unknown toxicity levels. "This food will kill us," Korvac whispered to his captain. But they watched in amazement as all the humans ate the same food with obvious enjoyment. The children consumed the spicy, fermented bacteria-filled substances and asked for more. "Too spicy for you?" Nari asked, noticing the aliens weren't eating. "I can make something milder." Milder? This was the mild version? Do-hyun sat down with the aliens to explain what they were seeing. "I know this must be confusing for you," he said. "Our worlds are obviously very different." "Doctor," Velthar said carefully, "how long do your people typically live?" "About 80 years on average. Some live to 100 or more." The aliens were shocked. Despite living on a death world, eating toxic food and breathing poisonous air, humans lived longer than most galactic species. "What about diseases?" Nixara asked. "Surely you have many illnesses from this environment." "We have medicine for most diseases," Do-hyun replied. "Our immune systems are pretty good at fighting off infections. Living here makes us stronger." Living here makes us stronger. That sentence changed everything for the aliens. Jiho returned from patrolling the forest and brought disturbing news. "Found some bear tracks near the crash site," he told the other humans. "Mama bear with cubs, we should be careful." "Bears?" Velthar asked. "Large furry animals," Jiho explained. "About 2 meters tall when they stand up. Very strong, sharp claws, and teeth." The aliens checked their databases. Bears were classified as apex predator and extreme threat to sapient life. "You have apex predators living near your town?" Korvac asked in terror. "Sure. Bears, wolves, wild boars. They usually avoid humans, but we respect their territory." "Usually avoid humans?" Nixara repeated. Sometimes we run into each other. It's no big deal if you know what to do. No big deal. These humans lived on the same world as creatures that could tear apart most galactic species, and they called it no big deal. Mina showed them pictures on her communication device. Images of the local area revealed even more impossible things. Humans swimming in large bodies of water. Humans climbing up the sides of mountains. Humans standing next to waterfalls where massive amounts of liquid crash down from great heights. This is beautiful country, she said proudly. We're lucky to live here. Lucky. The aliens realized that humans didn't just tolerate their Deathworld, they loved it. As the day continued, the aliens learned more disturbing facts. Humans regularly traveled to even more dangerous places for something they called vacation. They climbed mountains, dove underwater, and explored caves where most beings would die instantly, and they did it for fun. I don't understand, Velthar finally said to the group of humans. Your world is incredibly dangerous. How did your species survive long enough to build a civilization? The humans looked at each other, confused. Dangerous? So-Young asked. Earth isn't dangerous, it's home. But the predators, the weather disasters, the toxic plants. You mean the animals, the seasons, and the vegetables? Jiho laughed. Those aren't dangerous, they're just part of life. Yunji tried to explain. Humans have lived here for thousands of years. We learned to work with nature, not against it. The challenges made us stronger and smarter. The challenges made us stronger and smarter. Captain Velthar finally understood the truth. Humans hadn't conquered a death world through technology. They had evolved on it. Everything that would kill other species had made humans tougher, more adaptable and more resourceful. And somehow, living in conditions that would destroy most civilizations had made them kind and helpful to strangers. That night, as the aliens rested in the safety of the Human Community Center, Velthar made notes in his personal log. Day 2 on Terra, he recorded. The local species, who call themselves humans, continue to display impossible survival abilities. They appear to have evolved on this Class 12 death world and consider its dangers to be normal environmental conditions. More disturbing, they show no fear of us despite not knowing our capabilities or intentions. They have offered us food, shelter, and technical assistance with no apparent expectation of reward. Recommendation: Galactic Council databases regarding Death World classifications may need complete revision. Also recommend extreme caution in future contact with human species. Any beings who consider a Class 12 world to be home should be approached with great respect. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky as another normal rainstorm began. Inside, humans and aliens slept peacefully together, beginning to understand that the universe was much bigger and stranger than either species had imagined. Science Officer Nixara could not sleep. For 3 days, she had been collecting data about this impossible world and its people. Her findings made no sense according to everything she knew about galactic biology. She activated her portable laboratory and began running detailed scans of the environment. The results made her tentacles curl with anxiety. Terra's gravity was 1.3 times the galactic standard. Most species would struggle to walk here, but humans moved easily. Their bones and muscles had adapted to the heavy pull of their world. The atmospheric pressure would crush beings from low-pressure planets. The oxygen levels that humans breathed normally would poison species from different atmospheric compositions. But the most shocking discovery was the biological diversity. Terra had more different species of life than entire star systems in civilized space. The competition for survival here was incredible. Captain, she called to Velthar, you need to see this. Velthar joined her at the scanner. What did you find? Look at these readings, she said, showing him the data. This planet hosts millions of species. The evolutionary pressure here is beyond anything in our databases. What does that mean? It means everything on this world had to become very good at surviving or it died out. The humans we're meeting are the result of millions of years of the hardest survival test in the galaxy. Through the window, they could see Jiho preparing for another day of work. He was putting on simple clothes and checking his equipment. He's going into the forest alone, Nixara observed, into an environment full of apex predators. And he thinks it's a normal day at work, Velthar replied. They watched as Jiho walked into the woods without weapons or protective armor. Just simple tools and confidence. For him, spending the day surrounded by creatures that could kill most galactic species was just another day at the office. Mina arrived with more information about human history. She had brought books and pictures to help the aliens understand their world better. I thought you might like to learn about our past, she said, spreading out the materials. What the aliens saw horrified them. Human history was a story of surviving impossible disasters. This shows ice covering most of your continent, Korvac said, pointing at a picture. How did your people survive? The Ice Age? We adapted, learned to make fire, build shelters, work together. It lasted about 100,000 years. 100,000 years. The aliens' entire recorded history was shorter than one of Earth's natural disasters. And this? Nixara asked, showing a picture of a massive explosion. Volcanic eruption. The Toba supervolcano. It blocked out the sun for years and almost killed all life on Earth. Almost killed all life? Velthar repeated weakly. Yeah, but humans survived. We always do. We always do, said with such simple confidence as if surviving planet-wide catastrophes was just what humans did. Mina showed them more pictures. Asteroid impacts, massive floods, earthquakes that split the ground open. Each disaster would have destroyed most civilizations. Your species survived all of this? Korvac asked in amazement. Survived and learned from it, Mina replied. Each challenge taught us something new, made us stronger and smarter. The aliens began to understand something incredible. Humans weren't just tough because they lived on a dangerous world. They were tough because their world had been testing them for millions of years, and they had passed every test. Engineer Kyung-soo returned with good news about their ship repairs. I think we can get your ship flying again, he told them. The damage isn't as bad as it looked. You repaired a starship with primitive tools? Korvac asked. Primitive. Kyung-soo looked confused. These are standard engineering tools. Welders, metal cutters, computer systems, nothing fancy. Korvac examined Kyung-soo's equipment more carefully. According to galactic standards, these primitive tools were actually over-engineered. They were built stronger and more durable than necessary. Why are your tools so heavy-duty? He asked. They have to work in all kinds of conditions, Kyung-soo explained. Rain, snow, extreme heat, cold. If something breaks during a typhoon, you can't wait for good weather to fix it. The alien engineer suddenly understood. Human technology wasn't primitive. It was designed for survival on a death world. Everything had to work perfectly in conditions that would destroy equipment from other planets. Your computers, Korvac said, examining a human device. They're built to survive electromagnetic pulses. Lightning strikes, Kyung-soo nodded. Happens all the time during storms. Lightning strikes that happened all the time. The aliens realized that humans had learned to build technology that could survive natural disasters as a normal part of engineering. Dr. Do-hyun joined them with medical reports on the aliens' health. You're all recovering well, he told them. Though I'm curious about your biology. What do you mean? Velthar asked. Your bone density is much lower than humans. Your muscle mass is smaller, and your immune systems seem delicate. Delicate. The aliens looked at each other. They weren't delicate on their own worlds. They were normal. It was humans who were impossibly strong. Doctor, Nixara asked carefully, what is the average human capable of? Do-hyun thought about it. Well, a typical human can walk about 30 kilometers in a day, carry about 20 kilograms of weight, survive without food for about 30 days, without water for 3 days. We can function in temperatures from about 40 to plus 150 degrees Celsius. The aliens stared at him. Those capabilities would make humans super soldiers on most civilized worlds. And that's just average humans, Do-hyun continued. Athletes and soldiers can do much more. Some humans have climbed the highest mountains on Earth. Others have survived alone in the wilderness for months. The highest mountains? Korvac asked. About 9 kilometers above sea level. Very little oxygen, extreme cold, deadly weather. 9 kilometers up, where the air was thin and the cold could kill, and humans climbed there for sport. Jiho returned from the forest with news. Saw that bear family again, he told the others. The cubs are getting big, really cute. You got close enough to see bear cubs? Velthar asked in terror. Not too close. Mama bears don't like strangers near their babies. But I got some good pictures. He showed them images on his camera. Massive, furry creatures with claws and teeth that could tear apart starship hulls, and Jiho thought they were cute. Aren't you afraid of them? Nixara asked. Bears? Nah. You just have to respect them and give them space. They're more afraid of you than you are of them. More afraid of you than you are of them. Jiho was saying that apex predators were afraid of humans. That evening, the aliens watched human children playing outside. The young ones ran, jumped, and played fighting games. They fell down, got back up, and laughed about it. They're training, Velthar realized. The young humans are practicing survival skills. Playing, Yunji corrected. They're just having fun. But the aliens saw the truth. Human play was combat training. Their games taught survival skills. Even their entertainment prepared them for a dangerous world. As night fell, the aliens gathered to discuss what they had learned. We need to update our reports, Nixara said. Everything we thought we knew about life in the galaxy is wrong. How so? Asked Korvac. We assumed that intelligent life would evolve on safe worlds, planets with stable climates, few predators, mild environmental challenges. That makes sense, Velthar agreed. But humans prove that's wrong. They evolved on the most dangerous type of world possible. And it didn't make them weak or scared. It made them incredibly strong and surprisingly kind. The aliens looked out at the human town. Lights glowed in windows where families gathered for dinner. Children laughed as they played in the streets. Adults shared food and stories. These people had survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and asteroid impacts. They lived alongside apex predators and thought extreme weather was just interesting. They had built a civilization on a world that would kill most galactic species in minutes, and they had used all that strength and toughness to create a society based on helping each other. Captain, Korvac said quietly, when we get home, no one is going to believe our reports. They have to, Velthar replied, because everything changes now. We found a species that makes our greatest warriors look weak, and they invited us in for dinner. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky as another normal storm began. The aliens no longer feared the sound. They were beginning to understand that on Earth even the weather was just another part of life, and the humans who lived here were the strongest, kindest, most impossible people in the galaxy. On the 5th day, bright lights appeared in Earth's sky. The Galactic Council rescue fleet had arrived. Captain Velthar watched through the community center windows as huge ships descended from space. His rescue had finally come. But strangely, he felt sad about leaving. Your people are here, Soyoung said, joining him at the window. You must be happy to go home. Yes, Velthar replied. But he wasn't sure that was true anymore. The rescue ships landed in the field outside town. Immediately, dozens of aliens in full environmental suits stepped out. They moved carefully, as if expecting attack at any moment. Admiral Zenth, the rescue mission commander, approached the community center. His environmental suit was the most advanced model, with triple air filtration and radiation shielding. Through his suit's speakers, he addressed the humans. Stand back. We are here to rescue survivors from a crashed vessel. This area may be contaminated. The humans looked confused. They were standing in the open air, wearing normal clothes, breathing naturally. Contaminated with what? Jiho asked. Dangerous. Atmospheric gases, radiation, and biological hazards, Admiral Zenth replied. How are you surviving without protection? Dohyun stepped forward. We live here. This is our planet. Admiral Zenth's instruments detected no protective technology on the human. According to his readings, this creature should be dead. Impossible, he muttered. Nothing can survive on a Class 12 Deathworld without advanced life support. Class 12? Mina repeated. Is that some kind of rating system? The Galactic classification for worlds too dangerous to support life, Admiral Zenth explained. The deadliest type of planet known. The humans looked at each other and started laughing. Deadly? Yunji giggled. Earth isn't deadly, it's beautiful. Admiral, Zenth was confused. His instruments showed massive radiation levels, toxic atmospheric composition, and dangerous gravity. But these creatures acted like they were at a peaceful resort. Captain Velthar emerged from the community center with his crew. They still wore breathing equipment, but they moved more confidently than when they first arrived. Admiral, Velthar reported, the local inhabitants have been providing assistance. Local inhabitants? Admiral Zenth stared at the humans. These are the native species? They call themselves humans, Nixara explained. They evolved on this world. Admiral Zenth's mind reeled. A sapient species that evolved on a Class 12 Deathworld? It was scientifically impossible. How? He asked weakly. Kyung-Soo had been listening to the conversation. How what? He asked. How? Do you exist? How does anything live on this world? Kyung-Soo shrugged. Same way life exists anywhere, I guess. You adapt to your environment. But the dangers... What dangers? Taehyun asked, arriving with fresh vegetables from his garden. It's a nice day today. Not too hot, not too cold. Perfect weather for working outside. Admiral Zenth checked his instruments again. The temperature was 23 degrees Celsius, within the normal range for his species. The humans called this perfect weather for outdoor work. Then he realized something shocking. The environmental conditions that required his most advanced protective suit were what humans considered a pleasant day. More humans gathered around the alien rescue ships. Instead of fear, they showed curiosity and excitement. Real spaceships, said one human child. Can we see inside? Are there more alien species? Asked another. What do they look like? The children approached the heavily armed and armored rescue team without any fear. Their parents let them get close to beings from unknown worlds. Admiral Zenth was used to first contact situations. Usually, primitive species either ran in terror or attacked with primitive weapons. These humans did neither. They offered the aliens food and asked friendly questions. Admiral, reported his security chief, these beings show no hostile intent. They appear to be genuinely welcoming. Impossible, Admiral Zenth muttered. Deathworld species are always aggressive. The environment makes them violent. But as he watched, human children offered flowers to his soldiers. Adults brought food and water for the rescue team. An elderly human approached with a blanket, thinking the aliens might be cold. This changes everything, Science Officer Nixara told the Admiral. These humans aren't just surviving on a death world. They've created a peaceful civilization here. And they've been helping us, Korvac added. They repaired our ship, treated our injuries, and shared their food. Admiral Zenth tried to process this information. A species evolved on the most dangerous type of world in the galaxy, and they were peaceful and helpful. We need to conduct proper first contact protocols, he decided. Set up a meeting with their leaders. Their leaders? Velthar asked. Admiral, I don't think they have leaders the way we understand them. What do you mean? So-Young stepped forward. We don't really have one person in charge, she explained. When something needs to be done, people just work together. Like when your ship crashed, Jiho added. Everyone helped because it was the right thing to do. The Admiral was confused. How did a society function without clear leadership structures? Who makes decisions for your species? He asked. We make our own decisions, Dohyun replied. We talk things over and try to do what's best for everyone. Individual decision-making and voluntary cooperation. On a death world. It should have led to chaos and violence. Instead, It had created the most peaceful first contact in galactic history. Over the next few hours, Admiral Zenth interviewed many humans. Each conversation shattered more of his assumptions about how intelligent life worked. Humans had no unified government, but they cooperated across their entire planet. They had differences and disagreements, but they solved them through discussion rather than violence. They had abundant resources, but they shared them freely with strangers. "I don't understand," he finally admitted to Captain Velthar. "How did a Deathworld species become so nice?" Velthar had been thinking about this question for days. "I have a theory," he said. "Maybe because their world is so dangerous, they learned that cooperation is essential for survival." "What do you mean?" "Think about it. When everything around you can kill you, the weather, the animals, the environment itself, you need help from others to survive. Humans learned that being kind and helpful keeps everyone alive." Admiral Zenth considered this. Most galactic species had evolved on relatively safe worlds where competition was the key to success. But on a death world, cooperation might be more important than competition. "So the most dangerous world in the galaxy produced the most peaceful species?" he asked. "It seems that way." As the day continued, more humans arrived to meet the aliens. Scientists, teachers, artists, and workers all came to welcome their new neighbors. They brought gifts, asked questions, and offered help. None of them seemed afraid. None of them demanded anything in return. They were simply happy to meet other intelligent beings. That evening, Admiral Zenth made the most important decision of his career. Instead of a quick rescue mission, he established formal diplomatic contact with humanity. "This is Admiral Zenth of the Galactic Council," he announced to both his fleet and the gathered humans. "I am honored to announce first contact between the galactic community and the human species of Earth." The humans cheered and applauded. The aliens were amazed by this enthusiastic response. "We welcome humanity as our newest neighbors in the galaxy," Admiral Zenth continued, "and we have much to learn from each other." Captain Velthar watched as humans and aliens began to mingle freely. Children showed alien soldiers their toys. Adults shared food with beings from distant worlds. Scientists from both species excitedly compared notes. "Captain," Nixara said, approaching him, "what will you put in your official report?" Velthar thought carefully. "The truth," he said finally, "that we discovered a species that calls a Class 12 Deathworld home, that they're stronger than our best warriors and kinder than our most peaceful citizens, that they've changed everything we thought we knew about life in the universe." "And what about Earth's classification?" Velthar smiled. "Change it from uninhabitable Deathworld to human homeworld. Approach with respect and wonder." As the alien ships prepared to establish a permanent embassy, the humans made plans to visit the stars. What they called a Deathworld had produced the galaxy's newest and most remarkable civilization. Jiho looked up at the alien ships and then at the familiar mountains around his home. "Space travel," he said to Mina. "Think we're ready for that?" Mina laughed. "We survived ice ages and asteroid impacts. I think we can handle a little space travel." And as the humans prepared to take their first steps into the larger galaxy, one thought echoed through both human and alien minds. The universe had just become a much more interesting place. The humans had called their world Earth, or meaning soil or ground, simple and practical, like everything else about them. But the aliens would always remember it as the place where the impossible became possible, where the deadliest world in the galaxy had given birth to the kindest people in the universe, and, wherever humans went in the galaxy, they would carry with them the strength of their Deathworld home and the kindness that had helped them survive it.